Segment 2, Gold and Black Live. This is a person we should have, we haven't had on for some reason. I don't think, right? This is your first, or you maybe on early on?
It's been a while, but
Okay.
it's great to be back. So.
Well, I know. It's just a highlight of your day. Tom Schott joining us, Senior Associate Athletic Director, Strategic Communications, has been involved with Purdue's communications efforts since not the beginning of time, but close, and has been doing it for a long time and has watched this all change. You can't go necessarily into specifics, but yesterday, just from your perspective, inside the athletics department, when something like a tweet that goes out that comes out like it does it cause it causes a reaction, but does it cause you to have to do anything from your perspective?
Well, it certainly caused a reaction, but I've been doing this long enough, as you have, that I remember when Gene Katie was going to San Francisco and Matt Painter was going to Missouri. It was a done deal, and Jeff Brom last year was going to Tennessee.
Yeah.
So you can't knee-jerk react internally, but you have to understand that the fans are interested and care, and that's important. And Jeff, to his credit, and he's so open and so media savvy, he wanted to address it. Mm-hmm. And I thought did an excellent job addressing it, as he did on Monday. But it's just hard. You can't respond to every tweet and every mention. No, that's all you'd be doing on a full-time basis. But it goes with the territory, and obviously we've made it a lot easier as a society to put comments out there. And I have no idea who Dan Dokich's sources are, but I've always lived by the mantra until I'm told to prepare for a press conference.
Yeah.
The coach that's here is the coach that we've got, and we're certainly thrilled to have Jeff.
Yeah. Do you have conversations with Jeff or anybody in his inner circle in football when something like this goes on, or is it they're at the point where they know how to handle themselves based on how they've done it in the past?
Well, certainly Jeff has the most trusted confidant you could have in his brother,
Greg. Yeah.
And Greg's a great conduit for us, and we believe in their working relationship, and it's worked well for them. And Jeff came to actually Matt Rector on my staff yesterday and said he wanted to make a comment about it after practice, or at least talk about it if asked, which he was. And Matt and his colleagues peppered him, and he stayed true to his earlier week comments that it's just noise, and we've got a football game to win and a lot of work to do, and we believe him.
Yeah, the thing I think that comes off impressive about Jeff Brom is that transparent. He kind of is what he is, and that serves you well, I think, in situations like this.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a huge reason why he's been so successful. His players see that. He told them after practice yesterday, his door's open. If you'll have questions, concerns, come talk to him. We've been so fortunate at Purdue for so many years to have coaches like that, going back to Joe Tiller and Gene Katie and Matt Painter and others that are just, they're normal people. They don't have the egos, and they're not the prima donnas that so many people at their level can be, and that certainly makes our job a lot easier and helps them be as successful as they've been.
Yeah, I think there's no question about that. It makes it really better, makes it more real, I think, to the fan base. I think the fan base becomes empathetic, or at least understanding of, everybody knows that Jeff Brom is a guy in high demand. That isn't going to change, and he's going to be on other lists later than Louisville this year, even probably. But that's a compliment to him, but that's also the reality of where this situation is. I mean, is that a fair assessment from your view?
Sure, and I thought it was great last year when the Tennessee thing was floating around that he used that to his advantage from a recruiting standpoint. Jeff's very smart.
Yeah, yes, he is.
Not only football-wise, but just intellectually very smart. He knows people. He knows how to deal with people, whether it's recruits or current student-athletes, parents, the media. He's excellent. Yeah.
Strategic communications, you've obviously were trained in the old sports information world. You're still doing that, but in a different way. And it's so different. I mean, even where that was 15 years ago. But talk about the strategic initiatives, some things that you see that you guys want to get accomplished. What message do you continually want to get out, not only to the fan base, but to the entire world about what's going on in Purdue sports?
Wow, a couple different ways to attack that. First and foremost, when we started, or I started, and you were first leaving Purdue. We were here to serve the media, and that was 95, if not 100% of what our job was. And that changed probably in the last 10 to 15 years with our own website, certainly with social media, where we became more of our own news reporting agency. Now we've kind of evolved that even further, where athletics has a staff of graphic designers and videographers and digital media folks who have become kind of our own media outlet.
Yeah.
So we're now kind of back into helping them tell the stories with their skills. But obviously, as cliche as it sounds, it is all about the student athlete experience, and anything we can do to push out that these are students first. These are 18 to 22-year-olds who have lives besides playing the games and competing athletically. While that's a huge part of why they're at Purdue, certainly it's just a small part in their life. But we try to go beyond the X's and O's and not worry about wins and losses as far as telling our stories, because it starts with the recruiting process, which our creative services group has gotten much more involved with, and helping our coaches recruit from a graphic standpoint and a visual standpoint, and we've got very talented folks up and down the board. But it definitely has changed a lot over 28 and a half years, but I think all for the better. If there's one downside, it is the fact that you almost can't provide information or provide enough stuff fast enough. I think Coach Tiller used to say, feeding the insatiable giant, and we just can't get enough stuff out enough, because people will digest it all.
Yeah, and they'll do it in different segments. And Joe also said, called them all knuckleheads, which at least helped us out, our business.
Made you famous.
Yeah, right. So rest his soul. But, you look at this situation, too, from a, is recruiting the top thing that you're trying to get done? Is it or if you would weight the things between fan base, fan engagement, alumni engagement, recruiting, student athlete engagement, is there a percentage you could put on those that
I'd have to pick E, all of the above.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're all equally important in a different way. Certainly, you guys know recruiting better than anybody, and obviously you're competing with schools on from a bells and whistles standpoint, and it's not just facilities anymore. It is, the tweets you send out. It is the NLIs when they get them. It's the offers. It's everything that can make you stand out above whoever you're recruiting against. And then it's about how you present, the story during the event, and it's how you tell the story of the student athlete away from their competition. So, getting fans engaged, getting alumni engaged, donors, they're all equally important in their own special way, and it's a challenge. But again, we just have such talented people who, just get it, and we try to help them from a storytelling standpoint, and we think it all works well together.
Do you guys, is it a weekly meeting type thing, or when do you brainstorm, or at least get everybody on the same, what's the format to be able to communicate that? Because that's got to be a process. You're not all sitting in the same room 24/7.
No, we are in the same building, but we're on multiple floors.
Yeah.
This year, we went to a weekly meeting, kind of a creative services, content strategy meeting, and we found they were becoming week in and week out, all they were brainstorming sessions. We need to actually worry about execution and following up on the execution. So we now kind of alternate those. 1 week will be a brainstorming session with the entire group, again, video, graphic design, communications, fan experience, marketing, the whole 9 yards. And then a smaller group will kind of meet on the opposite week on the projects that are pressing at that time. So works well. And Michaela Patt, who's been our director of marketing and fan experience for several years, has transitioned into the role Jared Thompson had from a content initiative standpoint. And Michaela's been at Purdue for several years now, and really knows the ins and outs of the department, and she'll do a great job kind of facilitating all that work.
And you've been around long enough through several iterations of what I would call image and the way that Purdue has somehow morphed itself, in my view, and this is the work of your staff and Paul Sadler and others, of becoming kind of a hip place, or a place where you have a personality, you've got a look. That's a lot of work that comes into that. How has that, from your perspective, evolved over time, and has it just been a necessary way of doing business in today's internet age?
Yeah, I think if there was a knock on Purdue athletics, it was, we were blue collar and hardworking, and we'd outwork you and all that, and I think that all is still true.
Yeah.
But we've tried to make Purdue a sexy place to come, and a sexy place to be a student athlete. And again, it's just the works of, you mentioned Paul and the folks in the video staff and Ashley McCaffrey. It's the growth in that whole external relations area has been unbelievable in the last, really since Mike Babinski became athletics director. He saw a need for that and has put the resources in, both from a financial standpoint and everything else that goes with it. And I think we've made some strides. But you go back, we were one of the, you and I go back to the days of printed media guides,
Right.
which are still sort of
Hanging on.
But we were, Purdue was the first school to go to a virtual guide, and then those quickly became dated, and we were the first school to use websites to promote athletes for national recognition. So I feel like we've long been on the cutting edge. We just now have more people to help divvy up and attack it from so many different angles.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. It is a what have you done for me lately world on a regular basis. Now, the reason why Tom and I get along well, among other reasons, but is the fact that we also enjoy, even though he's not old enough, I may be, in terms of the history of what and where we've been and where this program has been over the years. And I always take a lot of I'm confidence in the way that Tom and company are the keepers of the key of some of the great traditions. It's important to me that that you pay homage to the Leroy Keys of the world and the Mike Phipps and the Gary Danielsons. But John Wooden, you've got a jersey going up. That has been an ordeal, but to be able to get that done. But talk about that role and being able to have that fine balance between Purdue's great traditions athletically and the new age.
Well, maybe it's because of my age, but I am a history freak and love having learned as much as I've been able to learn in my time at Purdue. Certainly nothing compared with your vast knowledge.
I don't know about that.
One of my kind of dreams is that we someday have an all-sports museum at Purdue. I know museums in the traditional sense are probably out of date, but I think with the interactive stuff, you could certainly make them popular. We've done a little bit of that in the new football performance complex in the lobby, which if folks haven't seen is open to the public and is worth a glance. But certainly the Wooden jersey was a great story with Drew and Orlando Ayton pulling that off last summer, and it is on display at Mackey. If folks haven't seen it, we decided to recognize all three of our national players of the year, also Glenn Robinson and Stephanie White. They have jerseys as well, and they're Player of the Year trophies. But I think a lot of people forgot that we actually have a John Wooden letter sweater that his family gave us. So we partnered that with Drew's jersey, and saw Drew in Cincinnati last Sunday, and he was excited to hear that it was up. I know he looks forward to coming back sometime in his off season to see it. But it's great to understand and appreciate those that came before us, and certainly Purdue's had just an unbelievable history, and exciting to be back creating more of that in the present day, especially football right now with Jeff.
Yeah, Tom is the author of a football book, and I'm drawing a blank on it. What's the title?
The Purdue Football Vault.
And it really a phenomenal book. If you want to know, and the thing I like about the book is the fact that you can see, feel, and touch. You got replicas of tickets. You've got pictures to pull out. Really, really well done. And yet, that is important to understanding where this program is going. Is where it's been.
Yeah, and I think people look at the immediate past before Jeff, and there were some lean years. There's no getting around that. But we've had pockets of greatness. Certainly, the Joe Tiller era stands out. But before that, with Jim Young and obviously Jack Mollenkoff's time, and back to Jim Phelan and others. But and certainly basketball, well documented. But we've had a lot of success at Purdue, and it's in my business or anyone involved with the department, when you're a public person, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but it's nice to be able to go to the grocery store and have people compliment you about things going on with football or basketball, much more so than when things aren't going well. And I kid that for years I couldn't go grocery shopping on Sunday morning because all people wanted to talk about was how bad football was going. But
that's different.
It's different now. I'm happy to go to the grocery on Sunday morning. So
and it is you see the ebbs and flows of it all, and maybe that's a good thing of being around as long as we have. Most things cycle back in a certain fashion, but so what's next? I mean, when you look at your crystal ball, and it's hard to predict in this great world of I never would have thought that Snapchat and Instagram would overtake some of the things it's overtaken. But does it stop? I mean, the internet is still not fully mature. But what's next? Do you think, from your perspective?
That's the $1 million question. And I can't tell you what it is, but I can tell you it will be something. And it will be here soon. And something will come and will stick, and something else will come and won't stick. But you just wonder, at what point do we get to a saturation? Is that possible? Can people really digest and take in everything that everyone is putting out there?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to imagine, but yet you put your phone down for 5 minutes and you wonder, what have I missed?
Yeah.
I'm sure I've missed something very important. It really is not only changed our business, but it's changed a lot how you live your life. I mean, you're tethered to the thing, and
Not all good.
not all good all the time, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And it does teach you priorities and those sorts of things. But technology is an amazing thing. I mean, I remember when I first started in college, we were thrilled to have a fax machine.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
the first fax machine at Purdue was one of those roll ones, and the people
Used
out
to
there saying,
smell.
"What's a fax machine?"
Yeah.
And that certainly is obsolete now. But I tell people 90% of it has been for the good, but there's a little percent that you kind of harken back to the old days. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad either.
Yeah, still room for good writing, good storytelling. It's just
Amen.
it is a medium, and maybe a little truth and honesty in reporting, and you try to do that. But there is still a room for that, I think, in this world. And you can tell, one of the things, the last thing I wanted to ask you about is something else that I really liked. Haven't seen the whole series, but the 11 Warriors series, which is something that very much interests me, and a story about the 1943 Purdue's undefeated 9-0 football team. But that's use of resources that you have to really tell the story of an amazing story in Purdue's most recent undefeated football team.
Yeah, and certainly the war and all was a big part of that team under Elmer Burnham, and Corey Palm of our staff just did a fabulous job tracking down all the video from that. And it was the first time that we created something internally that aired on the Big Ten Network linear channel, and that's certainly a credit to Corey and the work he put into it. Rob Blackman did an excellent job hosting it. But that team of all the soldiers who were assigned at Purdue, coming together and having success, and not all of them finishing the season, being sent off, just fabulous. It's online at PurdueSports.com if you get a chance. But again, 75 years, and that's again a case where during these brainstorming sessions, brought up that this is an anniversary year of that. We've never told that story before. Let's see what we have. Let's see what we can do. And again, Corey did just a fabulous job. I'm real happy for him and what he was able to do with that. So.
Yes, PurdueSports.com for that, but many other channels where that has been pushed out. It is really worth watching and gives you a sense of one piece of great Purdue history and a great story of the football program at
One
that
thing
time.
I learned from that I didn't know was we played a game in Cleveland that year against Ohio State, kind of as a trade-off for the fact that the Indians had spring training in West Lafayette. So,
all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, it's hard to believe that the Cleveland Indians used to have spring training on dirt in what is now Lambert Fieldhouse. An amazing thing, and there are a lot of great stories there. Well, we will do this again, and there's always, because you and I could sit and talk about all kinds of things when it comes to the history of Purdue football, and we ought to get Orlando on here, Orlando Lighton too, and we could shut the whole internet down. So, all right, we want
as
to
long
take
as he brings a pizza.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. We'll take a short break and bring in Kathy Wright-Eager for the final segment. And you are watching Gold and Black Live, and we'll look forward to talking to you and hearing from Kathy here in a couple minutes. Stay tuned.